Well, hello there again. It's good to see you. You haven't changed much since the last video. Hope all is going well. Remember, if you have any questions or any concerns, send me a message. Give me a phone call. I put my home number in so you can reach me at basically at any time. And focus in on the assignments, and remember, the main purpose of this course is for your success. Well, today we're going to be visiting about the history of psychology. This goes along somewhat with the prologue. I'm going to go through some brief highlights of psychology. Remember, psychology is an exciting topic, and you remember the main purpose of psychology is to make sense out of our world. So let's get started. There we have the history of psychology, making sense of our world and to control our world. And basically, the history can be summed up with this statement. From skull drills, you have a skull up here, to happy pills. And so we have from skull drills to happy pills. Now, they used to scrape a hole in the skull if an individual was acting up for any reason, thinking they would allow the evil spirits to leave. Now, this was quite a while ago. I mean, we're talking about ancient psychology. So we went from skull drills, and now we have happy pills. If we're not feeling quite right, pop a pill, and then we will feel better. Brief summary of modern day history and what really sparked the focus and the study of the brain, and this is what psychology is about. In 1957, and that was the year that I graduated, 1957, if you looked in the northern sky in the fall, you would see a man-made satellite orbiting the Earth. It was sent up by the Russians. And people were so excited. I mean, this was something absolutely unheard of. So that was in 1957. Then in 1969, the United States of America landed 2 men on the surface of the moon. So from there, we started with the 1990s, which is the decade of the brain. Now we're going to go into very, very ancient history. And so I want you to follow along. First of all, it's making sense of our world. These individuals wanted to be able to explain different aspects. So what I have there is individuals evolving from a lower form of life to a higher form of life called evolution. If you feel as though that man was created by a higher power, that's fine. I don't mean to offend anyone. The interesting thing about this area, this was back when the individuals were hunting, and then we went from hunting to more of a centralized town-like setting. But when they started back here, they had a concept. They would hear the thunder, they would a flood, what happened to people, why did people fall in love, and so forth. They had gods and goddesses to explain each and every one of these actions. Now, what is interesting about this is, where did they get the concept of God? I mean, they just didn't wake up some morning and say, oh, gee, we need a God. Where did they get the concept of God? You know, just kind of an rhetoric type, empirical type question. And so we start there, but people wanted to explain their world. Here we have a gal that has snakes for hair. And then we go down to the Greeks. We have the Parthenon and the individuals philosophizing. And around 400 BC, one of the great philosophers was an individual by the name of Hippocrates. And we still have the medical oath the doctors take. It is called the Hippocratic Oath. He's known as the father of medicine. He also studied personality and diet and exercise. And he made a statement that people may not agree with, but nonetheless he made the statement that individuals act up, and he was talking about females because they were suffering from hysteria. Now, hysteria was supposedly the womb at that time. This was the definition of hysteria. The womb going through the body, seeking a child. That was hysteria. From there, we have Plato's cave allegory. This is interesting, and it even applies today. If you'll notice here, we have individuals chained here looking at a wall. Okay, then right here we have a flame. And so the whole world, now this is just an allegory, just a story, so I understand if you say, well, that's not possible. But anyway, the whole world passed between the flame and the wall. And so what they would see on the wall would be a shadow, just a shadow of the world. Now, one of the individuals here escaped. He got loose from his chains and he went out and he saw the world, and he saw that the world had color, the world had depth, the world had movement, that there was an aesthetic value to the world, that the world was very meaningful. The mountains were tall. He touched snow and he felt rain. And so he ran back to the individuals who were shackled, his comrades there, if you want to call them comrades, cohort. And he told them, he says, hey, you've got to go out and visit the world and see what the world really looks like. And the individuals sitting there, now remember, they'd been chained here. This is an allegory again. It's an allegory, not really true. But they had been chained here, looking at shadows for so long that they didn't want to change. This is an important concept in our world today. People have a very difficult time with change. They want to keep things the way they are. Then if we skip to the 1800s, we have Franz Mesmer. And basically what he had a large hot tub. And he would have people sit in that hot tub, and he would rub them with a stick on their shoulders and on their head and try to get them to relax. And this is probably where our term mesmerism originated. Another individual was an individual by the name of Franz Gall, and he said the way that he can tell the behavior of an individual or how an individual acts is by feeling the bumps on their skull. Now this was interesting. We probably don't really have bumps on our skull that indicate what behavior we're going to engage in. But Franz Gall did one thing, and this is very important. He localized brain functioning. And that we want to keep in mind, that brain functioning is localized. We go up to the 1900s, we have what is called the three forces, or the three thoughts. We'll be talking about this a little bit later in the course. One was Sigmund Freud, and his theory was psychoanalysis, and he developed what was called the talk cure, which we're still using today. And so that was one force. Then another force was B.F. Skinner, and he was noted for behaviorism, that individuals act on a reward system. In other words, if they act a certain way and they receive a reward for that particular action, they will probably do it again. The last of the three forces was an individual. We have other individuals in here, I want you to know, with all of these forces, but these are kind of the main individuals. But the third force was an individual developed by an individual by the name of Carl Rogers, and that was humanism. And basically what he would do with humanism is that the individual that was having the difficulty, the individual that was the problem, was the center and the focal point of therapy, and he developed a way that would help them figure out on their own a way to alleviate some of their concerns. So again, the three forces, I'm going to go over those once again. Sigmund Freud with psychoanalysis. Now there's more to it. There's a lot more to it than this, but I'm just breaking this down to look at the three starting forces. So One was Sigmund Freud with psychoanalysis, B.F. Skinner with behaviorism, and Carl Rogers with humanism. Well, then in the 2000s, we have medicine and a very, very strong focus on the brain. And so this basically sums this up quite basically, quite rapidly. If you want to study more about the history of psychology, you can certainly go into Google, and from time to time, I will be visiting with you about various aspects in psychology. So until our next video, if you have any concerns with Sakai, remember to read the due dates and adhere to the due dates and read and follow the directions. So until the next video, you have a good day.